Hello and welcome to the video lecture series brought to you by St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management. My name is Ravinder. I am an assistant professor with ETC department, and today we are actually discussing the subject called programming for problem solving. And from the last lecture, we have started a new topic called the looping system. And we're going to start today with a very interesting topic called for loop. Now, for loop is the loop which is you can say is the king of all the loops, or not king, but I would say that it is the most used loop. Most used whenever you thought of when you will try to see your solution of a particular problem in the terms of a looping, the first thought that will came to your mind will be using the for loop because it is so intuitive and quite simple to implement, and it solves all your problems. That is, if you the main problem with the while loop is there is no mandatory condition that you have to put, the condition which will decide whether your loop is going to terminate or not. But with the for loop, you will actually have to put that condition, that is updation is actually the part of the basic syntax of the for loop. Okay, so let's move to the notes. Now, for loop is used to execute a set of statements repeatedly until a particular condition is satisfied. That is just basically the let's say the definition of any kind of loop. Okay, we can say that it is an open-ended loop. How? We'll see that. Now, this is your basic syntax of your for loop, and as you can see here, the for loop is initialized by the keyword for, and then there will be a bracket in which we will insert some statements. I will get back to it. And then between these curly braces, you have the statement block. That is the statements which you want to implement again and again and again until a condition is satisfied. So this is like the statement of the while block. So these are the statements. This is the task which you want to implement again and again until a particular condition has been satisfied, or until a particular condition decides that now you have to stop this. Now, how we are going to insert that condition? This is what the main difference. This is where the main difference came between the while loop and the for loop. Now, inside the for loop, first we will initialize a variable. Let's say int I equal to from some value, and then there will be the condition. Now, this condition will test on the basis of this variable which you have initialized in the first statement, and this condition will came out either true or false. Okay, if the condition is true, we will move inside the statement block. If the condition comes out to be false, we will skip the statement block and move. The control will be switched out of the for loop and towards the next statement following the for loop. Okay, so this condition will decide whether we have to go through the loop again and again, or we have to make a pass for the loop or not. Now, after that, we have an increment decrement statement. Remember, in the while loop, we have to insert an increment or decrement statement inside this block. Now, for the for loop, it is mandatory to insert this increment or decrement statement here. Now, this increment and decrement will be in accordance, or will be related to the variable that you have initialized here. So, if you want to add first, let's say 10 integers, so you can say you can initialize the for loop as int I equal to 0, then condition I, this loop will continue until I must be less than or equal to 11, and then I plus plus. That is, first the value of an variable I is equal to 0. Then you have to check whether the value of I is still less than or not, less than 10 or not. If the value is less than 10 still inside in the current pass, then again you have to go through the loop, make a pass, come back again, and again check the value. And while doing that, after completing this particular statement block, the last statement, which is being not returned here but will be executed, will be this statement actually. That is increment or decrement. That is, if I put here I plus plus, that is, after doing going through all these statements, the last statement will be actually this statement. That is, the value of I will be incremented by 1. Okay, so we'll see a live example in a few minutes. Let me read through the notes first. Now, for loop is also like a while and do while loop. We have not discussed the do while loop, but we are going to do that in few lectures from now. But we can initialize and decrement the variable also at the time of checking the condition in for the for loop. So in that way, you will never forget to insert a increment or decrement or your control, not control, but your updation statement, which could be the possibility in the while loop. Now, unlike do while loop or the while loop, the condition or expression in the for loop is given before the statements, that is statement block. So it may execute the statement zero or more times. Okay. So when you use for loop is when we use for loop, the for loop is better if number of iterations is known by the programmer. That is, inside the while loop, you can say that you have to run the while loop until uh, let's say a particular variable is first it is true, then it is being inserted as a false. But if you know how many times you have to do a particular thing in advance, let's say if you want to find out the if you have to let's say add first 10 numbers, then you know that you have to perform the task of addition 10 times. Then you know how many times you have to repeat the same task, that is addition of numbers. So we know how many times you have to pass through the loop. In that cases, in these kind of scenarios, for loop is best to use. Okay. Now in for loop we have two semicolons. I have already told you that first initialization statement, then a semicolon, then a conditional statement, then a semicolon, and then your increment and decrement statement. Okay. Now one after initialization and second after the condition. Now in this loop we have more than one initialization or increment decrement separated using comma operators, but it can have only one condition. So we can initialize more than one variables, but I have not seen these kind of situations. If we have to initialize more than one variable in the same for loop, we normally use nested for loops. Okay. Now this is how your flow diagram of your or flow chart, not diagram, of your for loop will be like. Now we have to start. We'll initialize a particular variable, say I equal to 0. Then we'll check for the condition, say I is still less than 10 or not. If that is true actually, then we will go inside the loop, that is statement block. We will execute the statement block, and then the last uh, statement of the for loop will be this increment decrement. It has been written here inside the for loop syntax, but it will actually be executed after the end of all the statements in the block. You will not see it, but this is how the order of things will be performed by the compiler. So at the end, after all the statements inside the block is executed, it updates the counter, that is increment or decrement. Then we'll again check for condition. If it is true, we'll go inside the loop again. Then again updates the counter. Updates the counter means let's say I plus plus, then the value of I will increment from 0 to 1, then from 1 to 2, then from 2 to 3, then 4, and so forth. And at every time we have to check the condition whether the value of I is less than 10 or not. If at any condition the value of I becomes greater than 10 or equal to 10, then this condition becomes false. In that case, we don't have to go inside the loop, but we'll go after to the next statement following the for loop. Or if there is no, let's say loop, no statement after the for loop, then your application will stop then and there, as you can see from this flow chart. Okay, so it will make more sense when I'll go through the code. So we have one example here. So we'll not see this example here. We'll actually going to write this example in our IDE. It will make more sense there. So let's now open a new file and start writing our code. If you have understood the while loop, then uh, making sense of this particular loop is quite easy. So our usual stuff, calling the standard input output library, and inside the main function. So let's say we want to add a number 10 times to not itself, let's say to another variable. So I'll initialize, let's say int, and let's say j has a value equal to 1, and we have one more variable, then result is equal to 0. Okay, so we initialize two variables, that is j and result. J has initialized with the value 1, result has initialized with the value of 0. Now we'll start with the for. As I have already told you, for loop will be initialized with the keyword for, then your brackets in which we'll insert the initialization, semicolon, condition, semicolon, increment, decrement statements. But before that, let me insert the condition, the code block. Now inside these curly braces, you will have condition blocks. Okay. Sorry, not condition block, the statement blocks. So let's start here. Now we'll have I equal to 0. Now in few of the languages now which are popular now like Java, you can initialize and declare and initialize this variable right here, but we cannot do that in C. So I will do this. So we'll also have a variable I which is been declared of type int but not initialized with any value. So I've initialized I with equal to 0 value right here, then the semicolon, semicolon, then your condition that I must be less than 10, or I will say I will start from 1 and equal to, let's say equal to 10. Okay, now this is your condition. I have written 1 here. Why I have written 1 here? I. Now this is your condition. It will check whether the value of I is equal to or less than 10 or not. Okay. Now this statement will result in either true or false. If it is true, we will go inside the loop. It is false, we will go outside the loop. Or you can say your loop is terminated. Last, your increment or decrement condition, that is I plus plus. It could be I minus minus. It is going to be according to your needs. Okay, now we are inside. Now we'll write here result is equal to result and plus and equal to j. Okay, and that is it. And let me also printf. In that way you will have the complete knowledge of what is happening. So in the percentage %d pass of for loop, the value of result is, and let's insert the I comma result. Okay, now I think we have discussed much about this printf statement, the standard output statement. Instead of this percentage %d, the space modifier, the format specifier, the value of current value of I in a particular pass will be inserted, and instead of this format specifier here, percentage %d, the current value of result will be replaced. Okay, and in the end I will write printf again in a new line. So final value of result is okay. So we are done with it. So what is happening here in this loop is a variable I has been initialized with value 1. The condition is this loop will go on until the value of I is less than or equal to 10. And every time this loop will make a pass at the end of the statement, that is after this printf statement, which is the last statement in the block, the value of I will be incremented by 1. That is, after one pass, after the first pass, the value of I, which is initially 1, is now equal to 2. Let me also do one more thing. Okay, I think this line will make sense. Okay, so and we'll go through these passes, and after the value of I will keep on incremented, we will make these passes again and again until and unless this condition is satisfied. When this condition get falsified, that is the value of I will become more than 10, because we are incrementing the value of I again and again in every pass. In that case, we will not go inside the loop, and the loop will be terminated, and the control will shift to the next statement after the for loop, that is to the printf statement. Okay, so I think you have got the idea. Let me save this file first and we'll see. So 25. Let's try to run this. Let's see what has happened. Okay. Hmm. Okay, I have to do like this. Yeah. So you see, we'll go inside the for loop. Initially, in the first pass, the value of I is equal to 1, which has been confirmed by here. In the first, it could be 1th, not 1th, it could be first, but pardon me, I cannot do that. In the first pass of for loop, you see that this 1 is, I have not inserted this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. This is actually the current value of I in a particular iteration or in a particular pass. So in the first pass, the value of I is equal to 1. So that is why 1 has been printed here. Okay. The pass of for loop, the value of result is percentage %t. So initially in the first pass, the value of result is equal to 0 plus j, the value of j is 1. So 0 plus 1 will equal to 1. So that is why it has been printed 1 here. In the after this printf statement, the value of I will be incremented to by 1. That is 1 plus 1 will now become equal to 2. And it has been confirmed by this statement here. In the second pass, first the value of I will be checked. That is, now the value of I is 2. 2 is still less than 10. So the condition is true. We will go inside the loop. Again, the value of result will be updated. That is the last value of result plus j. The last value of result is actually 1. So 1 plus j still has a value of 1. So 1 plus 1 becomes 2. So that is why it has been written 2 here. And in the second pass, the value of I in this particular pass is 2 because it has been incremented by 1. Now, and so on in the third pass, in the fourth pass, fifth pass, sixth pass, seventh pass, eighth pass, ninth pass, and 10th pass. The value of result will be updated by 1. And after this last pass, that is after this line here, this has been printed here, we have come here, the value of I will again be incremented by 1. Okay, now the value of I is actually 11 because in the last pass, in the pass that we have seen, that is in this pass, the value of I is 10th. So it will be incremented by 1. So the value of I is now 11. Now the control will move again for checking the condition. Now 11 is actually not less than or equal to 10. It is greater than 10. So this condition will become false. At this time, the loop will stand terminated. So we will not go inside the loop and the control will be switched to the next line after the for loop. Next statement. Next statement is a printf statement which have printed the final value of the result, which is 10 equal. Okay, so I think you have understood how to use a for loop. In the next lecture, we'll see nested for loops and different forms of the for loop. I will devote one more lecture to the for loop. Thank you.